My name is Daniel Kuhne, and this is my replique to the resurrection claim by William Lane Craig. Did the resurrection happen? This is not a discussion about miracle claims in general, but about one very specific suspension of apparent scientific laws. This is also not some sort of probabilistic argument, but rather my assertion is that the resurrection could not conceivably have happened under any circumstances, and not even an almighty God could have caused it to happen, even if he, she, or it had wanted to. There are two approaches vis-a-vis miracle claims: a scientific approach and a logical approach. Let's take Noah's Ark as an example. Is it possible that the entire earth was covered with water, submerged completely, including the top of Mount Everest? Naturally, this is possible. But what would have to be true for it to be true? All known laws and standards of science would have to be untrue. Biology, chemistry, physics, astronomy, archaeology, anthropology, geology, even botany would have to be fundamentally false. To claim that they are false is itself unfalsifiable and therefore has a probability factor of greater than zero. Any non-falsifiable claim has a logical probability of greater than zero, as I've argued elsewhere. Let's say we agree that the universe is older than 1 Planck time and younger than 10 to the power of 1,000 to the power of 1,000 years. How probable is it that it is precisely 5 minutes old? How likely is it that you pick, say, the 5 of clubs in a shuffled deck of cards? Let me answer the second question first. The odds are 1 in 52 or 1 to 51 against. Its probability of happening is just shy of 5%. A good trick, but far from impossible by any stretch. If enough people play the lottery, someone is bound to win and does. If there are enough universes in the multiverse, one that looks exactly like ours does now is bound to be only 5 minutes old. After all, it is not falsifiable and thus has a probability of greater than zero. I can't give you the exact number, but I can give you a finite range. First, mathematically speaking, we have to have discrete time in order to have a meaningful calculation. Sorry. The discrete unit of this time is called Planck time, 10 to the power of minus 35 seconds. This is the least amount of time needed to effect any kind of causal relationship between particles. Thus, we have to weigh the likelihood of the universe being exactly 13.7 billion years old, plus or minus a certain range of error, versus any other age not supported by any evidence. We have to weigh the likelihood of all signs being in error, and we have to reflect in our odds the equal likelihood of any competing unfalsifiable claim. In other words, the universe is 7 minutes or years or hours or any other age. Without knowing the precise number, we do know that it must be a very large but finite number. Fortunately, you can define very large numbers at will. Let's try this. Let's say we call a number 1,000 with 1,000 exponents of 1,000 n. So there's a number 1,000. It has 1,000 exponents, each being 1,000. 1,000 to the power of 1,000 to the power of 1,000, repeated 1,000 times. Let's say we call that number n. And then we say n to the nth exponent to the nth exponent, and you keep adding exponents n times. We would call that result n1, and we would repeat the same process, and we'd call that n2 and so forth. And eventually we'd get to nn. Let's say we'll call nn capital uppercase N. The likelihood of our universe being exactly 5 minutes old is definitely larger than or better than 1 in capital N, and probably better than lowercase n or even a fraction of lowercase n. If, however, we accept the implication of M theory that there are only 10 to the power of 500 to 10 to the power of 1,000 universes in the multiverse, or say, as theists mostly do, that ours is the only universe, the odds against it are beyond any reasonable doubt. Not beyond any doubt, mind you, but reason dictates that you reject it. The resurrection is not such a probabilistic argument at all. It never gets there. It is a self-contradictory claim to start with, and its veracity can never even be considered. Suppose you were to start a statement in the following fashion. This morning I met a Catholic Muslim, and therefore X. I would not consider the rest of your conclusion because it is based on a faulty premise, and because everything that you claim follows does not in fact follow. It is a non sequitur and has to be dismissed as logically impossible. To say someone killed an immortal is a contradiction in terms. It is self-defeating. God is immortal by definition. He is eternal or timeless. Therefore, if you kill God, you cannot possibly be guilty of deicide, as the Catholic Church used to claim. If you kill anyone, you also logically kill any claims to immortality that someone has. If, on the other hand, you kill a human and he is not subsequently dead, well, then you haven't killed him. The definition of biological death is the irreversible cessation of all biological functions of a given organism. The salient feature here is the word irreversible. If you reverse something that is said to be irreversible, you have shown it to be not irreversible. So if the definition of death is correct, a resurrection is a contradiction in terms. But even if the definition is not correct and science is wrong, then nobody has ever died. Your great-great-great-grandmother did not really die. She's just sleeping it off. The cessation of her bodily functions is not irreversible, thus she might get up at any time. But even then, Jesus could not have been resurrected, because then death simply would not be defined and does not exist. To say evidence for any evidence for a resurrection has to turn proven logical impossibilities into logical possibilities. Not only is that not humanly possible, this is not even possible for a theistic, rational, omnipotent God.